want to thank all of you so much for being here. In April of 2008, when we realized, it was the first week of April of 2008, and we realized that Amelia was not going to be with us very much longer. We didn't know how long, but we knew it was going to be just a few days. One of my friends, we had about 40 or 50 people come to the house every day for about 8 days in a row to come support us and to tell Amelia goodbye. And on one of those days, one of my friends brought a CD that had hymns on it, and it was so peaceful and beautiful, and I played it almost nonstop. And one of the days when she was still with us, that I had that CD on, I heard a very clear whispering in my ear that I was supposed to record a CD of hymns one day in Amelia's memory. And then she went home I'm a crier. She went home to be with Jesus, and I promptly lost my singing voice. And it was entirely because of grief. It was not a medical circumstance, and I lost it for 20 months. And it was a real heartbreak for me because I had sung to Amelia every day of her life. I had sung to her when I was carrying her before she was born. And that was a very deep connection that we had. And when she died, we set up 2 memorial funds, and one of them goes entirely to give books and music, the 2 most important things in Amelia's life, to children. And so not to be able to sing anymore accented my grief. It was because of the grief, and then it made the grief deeper. Even though I felt happy, and I was so aware of the blessings of still having Brian and having our other children. We didn't have Blake yet, of course, but Marianne and Brent. But that was really a sadness for me. Every time I go to sing to my other kids, nothing would come out. And almost literally nothing would come out. And it was about 20 months until, in this way that only God could orchestrate, I had a very clear understanding that I was supposed to get my voice fixed. And that was this past September. And the initial woman who was the vessel for that is Billy Schaefer. She's sitting right out here. She helped open my eyes to the fact that I couldn't let that grief stay in my throat anymore, and I needed it to go on and move. And so with the help of 3 precious people who are, I think, all here tonight, or one of them might not be yet, but 3 precious people who are friends of mine, they helped me move that grief out of my throat and out of my body, and within 2 weeks, I had my singing voice back. In November, that was in September, and then in November, this past November, I really kind of rocked Madeline Robison's world one night when I was sitting on the couch, and I looked across the room at him, and I said, "Honey, I really feel called to do that CD that I told you about 20 months ago." And Brian he has wonderful gifts and great personality traits. Readily accepting new ideas is not one of them. And that was a little touch and go night in the Robison household. But by morning, he was fully behind the whole idea. And about a month later was the first time I mentioned that idea to anyone but Brian, on Christmas Day to one of my cousins. And from there, we came here. In the second week of January, I guess it was, I talked to Christy Glasscock. Christy had been so supportive and wonderful about Amelia and helping make everything possible for Amelia to go to co-op, even though she couldn't do the things that the other kids could do in 3-year-old co-op. And she'd been so kind and generous toward our family and in helping during Amelia's life and afterward. Everything from Sunday school and everything that I can think of. And I knew Christy had gone to Vanderbilt, as had I, and I knew she'd lived in Nashville growing up. And so, really, even though I knew those things, it was really, I believe, the power of the Holy Spirit prompting me one day as I rushed by her on a Sunday morning to ask her if she knew anybody still in Nashville in the music industry who might help with this little project that I wanted to do. And Christy had heard me sing before because she'd asked me to help lead chapel for the littles a few times a year on Sunday mornings. She wonderfully, some people say, "Oh, I'd love to help with that," and then they don't follow through. But not Christy Glasscock, because she's great at following through on everything. And Christy got in touch with her mother in Nashville, who gave me John and John's contact. I met with other people who could have helped me in Nashville when we went in January, but there is not another John. So John was instantly a dear friend, and I call him my esteemed producer. He gets so embarrassed by that, but he is. I sat down with him the first day I met him and told him my ideas, and I told him it was incredibly important to me that all the proceeds from the sales of any CDs that I would ever do would go to charity. And so before I say much more, I want to thank you all tonight who have bought CDs. I want to thank you so much on behalf of the children whose lives you have made better. I know what it is to outlive a child. I do not want other parents to know that. And there are very many preventable child deaths in the world. There are about 29,000 every day. That's filling American Airlines Center and wiping with children under the age 5 and younger, and wiping it out every single day. And the vast majority of those deaths, well, they're almost entirely preventable. The vast majority come in some way from not having clean water. So the first project that Amelia's gift proceeds will go to fund is the building of a clean water well in Africa through World Vision, and you are helping make that possible. When that project is fully funded, we will then switch to International Justice Mission, and we will fund a project to help free child slaves. And so please go to the website often. You'll get updates on how those projects are being funded and what the next thing is that's going to be funded. But always my CD sales will go to benefit those two projects through those two organizations. We have great respect for both of them in our household. I like thinking of Amelia in heaven with Jesus. I do not want to think of any other children being there before they are old. So I appreciate y'all helping fund the projects. I really do. The album is called Amelia's Gift, not just because she was a gift to us, she was, but also because of how many gifts that she gave to us. I met God during Amelia's life in a way that I had not known him before, even though I had been a professing Christian and a sincere one my whole life long. And I think Amelia helped me realize that I actually was fairly tepid in my devotion to him, and certainly in the way that I prayed. And when you have a child who has a disorder where she's the only known case in the world, you have to go every minute of the day to the great physician for direction on how to help her. And he did not fail us in giving us direction. Since we know now the category of disorder that hers was in, we know that she lived about 4 times longer than she should have. And I know that during all those years, she was giving gifts to everyone who watched her and everyone who knew her. Her brother and sister who lived on Earth with her, Mariana and Brent, talk about her all the time. And she set examples for them that as they grow, they will never forget. And after she died, when we adopted Blake, we've understood Blake to be a gift from Amelia and God. Like, she went and picked him out. And Brian, I think it's so great that Amelia, who could not eat by mouth her whole life, except for maybe the first 8 weeks of her life, and not even well then, Amelia couldn't eat by mouth. She sent us a baby who at 9 months old was wearing 24-month clothes because he eats so much. So we figure she picked out really, really well our precious 4th child. I invite you to go to our website. It's MadelineHymns.org. I invite you to walk that whole walk with us. I'm so grateful that you all are here. I know. Thank you so very much for being here.